A grand Tees Valley Nature Partnership tradition is Pecha Kucha, which is Japanese for chit-chat. So we've got two very fast-paced, inspirational presentations. Our first presentation is from Joe Redfern from Whitby Lobster Hatchery, and then followed by Henry Short, who's the projects officer for Fish for Tees of Tees Rivers Trust. And then directly after that, we have a lunch by the Barefoot Kitchen, a chance to visit our stalls before the afternoon's workshop. So, our first speaker, Joe, welcome to the stage.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me here. And if Tristan's still here, I'll just start off by saying, having played basketball all my life and been an environmentalist, inspiring as you are, I think I've beaten you to the spot for the first ever basketball playing environmentalist. So sorry about that, but keep up the good work and do come visit us at the hatchery. Okay. So we're on to this challenging presentation format, which the timer has started. Yes, so I'm going to be talking about the hatchery here, but yeah, thank you for inviting me here. It's a pleasure to be here in this brilliant auditorium. But first off, I'm just going to talk about me for a second, about the perspectives I bring to the project. So I'm a marine biologist, first of all, but I've also worked for the IFGA in the management and conservation team out of Whitby, and I've also worked as a scallop diver on the south coast and potted for lobsters out of Whitby. So the hatchery project really brings these three perspectives together nicely for me. First off, I'm just going to talk about the need for the hatchery. So here you can see Whitby's famous historic whaling fleet and our most successful whaler, William Scoresby, which would lead Whitby Harbour, which all came crashing down due to technology advancements in the ancient whaling fleet. So now we're on to the herring fleet, where the wooden cobbles filled Whitby Harbour, one of the most famous herring ports in the country, and those herring also supported tuna. So the Whitby held the record for the biggest tuna ever caught by rod and line for decades. But we haven't seen a tuna in the waters around the northeast until last year. James Cole, the skipper of the Good Intent, had one wrapped around his pot ropes and another washed up at Skegness. So it really was hopefully a good sign for the future. But I'm trying to illustrate here the cyclical nature and the boom and bust of fisheries that have gone on in the past. Most recently, the cod fishery, which makes Whitby famous for its fish and chips. And they would actually catch the cod out just outside the pier ends and land them into that room there in the Whitby Fish Market, and that's actually the room which we've now converted into the Whitby Lobster Hatchery. So you can see here on the next slide the graph showing the sharp decline of the whitefish fleet with the grey line, and that led to this boom of the lobster and crab fishery we have today, leading to a near 400% increase in the last 15 years of the amount of lobsters being landed into Whitby. So it's a real big deal now along this stretch of coastline. There's something like around 300,000 lobster pots operating along the northeast. And these pots provide the income for our fishing communities as it is today. And along the stretch of this northeast coast, we are very good at that. We have the top three ports, not only in the UK, but the top three ports in the whole of Europe for catching lobsters. That's Bridlington, Scarborough, and Whitby. And in Whitby, we catch around about 100,000 lobsters each year. So that brings in the Whitby Lobster Hatchery. There's the need of why we're on it, and we've set up the Lobster Hatchery to try and preserve the lobster populations. So I've been working on this project since about 2020, and we've set up as a registered marine conservation charity, which stand by our three core values of conservation, education, and research. And through our own fundraising initiatives over the past 2 or 3 years, I'm proud to say that we've now installed the Lobster Hatchery functioning in Whitby Fish Market, where we'll be installed the specially designed equipment which is capable of releasing 100,000 juvenile lobsters each year. But this all starts with the buried hens, the egg-bearing females. And we work with the fishing community To get the buried hens from the sea, we have special permission to land them. And we're looking for these large hens that have lots of eggs and the red eggs. The bigger the hen, the more eggs they have and the more viable. And they can have about 20,000 eggs. And the eggs first off hatch as a larvae. Don't really look or act like an adult lobster. And they spend about 2 weeks as a larvae, and this is their most vulnerable part of their life cycle. Only about 1 out of 20,000 is expected to survive in the wild. So we bring these hens in, we let the eggs hatch, and we use the equipment to let the larvae develop, and we feed them. And you can see the difference there between the pelagic larvae and the benthic, or the bottom-dwelling juvenile lobsters that we then keep separate from each other. And we can boost that survival rate maybe up to 2,000 out of the 20,000 to survive. So here's Ruby. She's our first ever stage 4 lobster, which was hatched in the Whitby Lobster Hatchery. And you can see here now she has a properly deformed claws. She can swim a lot better. She can scavenge, defend herself. A lot better able to survive. And this is the stage we're aging them to get to before we then release them into the wild. So, as I say, we're aiming to release 100,000 lobsters a year, and that is to try and offset the amount of lobsters that the fishing industry catches. And we're trying to underpin those wild populations, maintain that ecological balance, protecting the lobsters for our marine environments and indeed our coastal communities. Unfortunately, the coastline around here has been besieged by the mass mortality events, which has come right in the middle of the development of the lobster hatchery. And we've been working closely with academics and the fishing industry. And personally, I firmly believe that pollution from the Tees estuary has been the cause of what we're seeing here. So the hatchery is hoping to be part of the solution. We're hoping to give something back to the oceans and rejuvenate some of those populations that have been lost, working with academics and the fishing community. And we only think this is only going to be successful if there's other management and conservation measures all working together. So just quickly, I want to say thank you to our funders and supporters. We've been really overwhelmed over the years with the amount of support that we've had from local people, from businesses, from the fishing community, from industry groups. It's been brilliant. So if you would like to support us, there's a few ways you can do that. You can follow us on our social medias. You can become a lobster buddy by signing up to our newsletter. You can even name and sponsor your own lobster to be released back out into the North Sea. So I'll be taking any questions, and you can visit us on our website, available there. Thank you.